Hello, folks. Sorry for the delay. I realised that as we're doing this feedback party with the people in Make Music Your Life, uh, the machinists and mastery members in Make Music Your Life, and we had a bit of sorting out to do with the Zoom and listening to things and all that kind of stuff. I realised that it's probably best for me to actually schedule this live stream probably 15 minutes after everybody, all of the machinists and mastery members join, because we have a bit of to do. So apologies for the wait. We're now sorted. I think the wonders of modern technology mean that now we can have music playing and people speaking and all of those wonderful things. And with me right now is Luke, Make Music Life Coach. Hello, Luke.
Hello, Mike.
How you
Excited
doing?
to be here. Feedback on some music.
Yeah, you've got a very small head today.
Oh no, it's just that it's very large. And
so the camera's just very far away from you. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, it's
okay. I was hoping
standard.
you're okay. Brilliant. All right, so we're going to kick off with Stephen. Hello, Stephen.
Hello.
Stephen's music, and right here, let me just. So this is Stephen's automatic music machine. When did you when did you join the first automatic music machine live class?
Yeah, it was the first one. So late summer last year.
So late summer last year, and here you can see he's been getting on with his music. Just out of interest, what difference has the automatic music machine made? I know that you've got something that we're going to a sort of an obstacle that we're going to overcome right now, but aside from that, what difference has the automatic music machine made?
I'd say the main thing really is it's sort of removed a lot of the running around in circles syndrome and just getting stressed on one tune indefinitely. I just find that every music session I have is a good session, and if I have a bad session, it's only half an hour, and then the next session's a good session. So yeah, Exactly. It just keeps it fun and interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just being able to cycle around multiple pieces of music and still make progress on all of them is a game changer. It stops you just going and losing your mind. So we are listening to. Actually, we're not listening to it there, are we? I forgot because the Dropbox thing isn't working. So I've got something else open here. So we're going to listen to. What's the name of this? 2,100
21163 Patterns to Feeling Techno Flow. That's just
21163 doesn't mean that you've made 21,163 ideas since.
No, that means that was the 163rd splurge last year.
Okay, last year that was on. Oh right, there you go. Excellent. So yeah, I mean. Before the kind of the automatic music machine, was the idea, was making 163 ideas in that short space of time, was that something you would have done?
No, definitely not. Well, the Idea Explosion Challenge opened my eyes up to the whole new world of doing that. I'd have like 12 ideas a year because I'd only make 12 tunes a year. Well, if I was lucky. So,
God, just imagine, just compare that. Could you compare the pressure? The like this psychological weight of that you're putting on each of those ideas. It's just like they're going, oh no, don't crush me, It's like, whereas if it's like 12 out of 163 or 1,633, it's like, the ideas can just go, it's all right.
It just removes the blank canvas, the fear of the blank canvas, because you just never have one.
Yeah, I know. I remember that was one of the first blog posts I ever wrote when I started doing this kind of thing. It was called something like Fear of the Blank Canvas. And now I'm like, what? I did just as a blank. What is a blank? No. There's no such thing as a blank. It just stuff happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy memories. of struggle and pain. Anyway, right, let's have a listen to this work of genius. I already listened to it and it sounded great, so, well, not the whole thing, but a bit of it. Lovely. Sounds great, Steve. What are you going on about? In your message, that sounds really great. Well done. But like in terms of how we give feedback here at Make Music Life, it's got a specific model for thinking about music, and it keeps you honest. It keeps you focused on the things that are important, and it's called paths. And what paths stands for, because I'm a sucker for an acronym. There are quite a few in Make Music Your Life. What path stands for is P, purpose. So that's the number one thing. Everything wants to serve the purpose, and what a purpose is it's not the function. It's separate to the function. Well, it didn't necessarily say. Well, no, actually, it is separate to the function. If the function is to make people dance, or for people to enjoy it, or to be for meditation, that's a function. The purpose is, what is this specific piece of music describing, expressing? What's this specific piece of music doing? Okay, and often people will go, "Oh, some pieces of music have a purpose, and then other pieces of music don't have a purpose." And I'm like, what are you expecting? Like, are you expecting a purpose pixie to come and go, "Hey, this is the purpose," right? It's like, you are the purpose pixie, so you choose the purpose, and the purpose is really helpful thing. Of course, not every musician in the history of the world has done this, but all I can say is that by having a decision that you've made, it's a high leverage decision. It's a decision you've made. This piece of music is about this, and it doesn't have to be like I'm telling a story with this piece of music. It doesn't have to be that like that. It can just be a feeling or an emotion, or it's about something. By doing that, you've made a decision external to the compression ratios and transitions. You've made it a decision outside of the actual nuts and bolts of making the music, which allows you to make other decisions and cut out options. So that's what the P is. A is arc. Now, unfortunately, paths, the way it's spelt, means it's slightly in the wrong order. If it was in the right order, it would be something like or something like that. But so it's path. So we're slightly in the wrong order. So, but just bear with me. So the A is arc. So that's, in other words, is the shape of the track. If you want, another way, but you could say arrangement. I prefer the word arc because it's more. It takes you again out of the nuts and bolts of, oh, have I got my transitions right? That stuff, and you're actually just thinking about, what is the shape of this track? Where is the payoff? Is this piece of music leading to a thing where it all makes sense? That kind of thing. T is the thing, and this is one that is confusing to a few people because it's something. I think it's a way of describing something that I've not actually seen anyone else do. But a quick, I could go on. I mean, I could do a whole, workshop about the thing. In fact, I have in mastery. But anyway, what the thing is it's the part or set of parts that, when it is removed, it creates the most tension. And usually, what happens in a piece of music is at the payoff in a piece of music. That's when the thing comes back. So, in a pop song, often, not always, the thing is the chorus. Yeah, and the payoff is often, not always, the last chorus, right? In a EDM track, usually, not always, the thing is the bass and kick and groove. Yeah, because you got the most tension is created when that groove comes out. So and you got the hands in the air moment, and then there's the drop where everything comes back, and that's usually the payoff, not always. So the thing is that, yeah, and it's existent in pretty much all music. Not 100% music, but then there are music's music, so there are always exceptions which prove the rule. H is hook. As I said, it was in the wrong order, so you'd probably start with a purpose, then move to hook, because that's where you're kind of splurging out hooks. Is hook or hooks. more accurately, because really the best music, a lot of the parts are hooky. It doesn't just have one hook, it has multiple hooks. And people often go, why isn't the thing the hook? No, because the thing is like where the hook and the arc meet, because like the thing is one of the hooks which operates in the music within the arc to create that release intention, to create that payoff moment. Yeah. And the final one is S space, which if you want to think of it like this, is about really the mixing in a way, but it's you're with any piece of music, what you're really doing is you're putting them into a space or spaces. Okay. So that's how we think about music, making music, and also feeding back on music, because it's just a really useful, simple music theory free model, which helps you actually do all of the things that you need to do in a piece of music to make a successful piece of music. And just before we say anything in terms of feedback for this, I just want to say, Stephen, as far as I'm concerned, you've got a nice big green tick in all of those in this piece of music. So, but of course, as we know, every single piece of music ever written can always be improved. Yes, even your favorite piece of music by the world's greatest artist, yes, it can be improved. If you're saying, no, it can't, it'll be because you don't want it to be different, because you've built up associations with it as it is. It is not true. Every single piece of music that's ever been written can be improved. Ask the person who wrote it. Ask the person who produced it. Unless they're a little deluded, they will say, yeah, no, definitely. I think I can, yeah, I would have done this, I would have done that, that would have been better. I hear the mistakes. Yeah. And you'll be like, no, but it's perfect. It's because you love it that you think it's perfect. It's not the same thing. Brilliant. Right. So we're after that very long preamble and explanation with poor Stephen sitting there having to nod his head. Let me bring Luke into the mix. And how am I going to do this? Actually, I've not thought about this. I think what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to have to do this on the fly. So you'll have to excuse me. What's going on? Screen share. Secondary display. Why is that not working? There we go. Oh, I'm going to have to get rid of myself for a second. All right, there's Stephen. All right, so, and I'm going to have to change the zoom setting. Apologies. I've not done it like this before. Remove that one and change the setting. Change the setting here to gallery, I think. Oh, now we've got everyone. And then I'll spotlight a few people. So Luke, why don't you take it away with the feedback here for Stephen while I'm doing this nonsense?
Yeah, so I mean, Steve, what I think we usually do, now that you've played this opus in public, what were your thoughts on it after listening?
I thought that possibly the intro section was a little bit more drawn out than it needed to be, and I didn't think it banged hard enough when it came out of the first breakdown. I couldn't get my transition right.
Transitions. Okay, so that's brilliant you say that, because it's actually never the transition that's the problem.
No, probably not. But yeah, I just didn't feel like the payoff delivered on the payoff, which is why it's still in done and not in release, basically.
Okay, so when would you say that the payoff was?
I wanted it to be. I think it wants to be sort of after the first breakdown, when the beat and everything kicks back in. It just needs to sort of really kick in a little bit.
So can you describe to me what's happening there?
What's happening is the violin sounds are sort of building up in reverb. There's some little mid-range synthesizers that are sort of having delay feedbacks building up a little bit. They build up into a little bit of a crescendo. Then it sort of drops for a split second, and then the the drums and the main bass and the percussion and everything kicks back in again. That's basically it, I think.
So should we actually just have another listen? So you're talking about the first break.
Yes.
All right, I'm just going to play. I'm just going to play that bit. So let's just have a listen to that. Let's like really zero in on it and have a listen to that bit right now to see what the problem might be. Okay, so go on, Luke.
So, okay. So you feel that when it comes back in, it doesn't, what were the words you used? Bang hard enough?
Yeah, it doesn't quite, give it, I want it to be like a bit of a slap around the face almost in the metaphorical sense.
So you
Like
want that part to slap more in the face.
Yeah, just be like just abrupt. Yes, it's like a change of state almost, where you're in one state of mind and then you're woken up and you're in another state of mind.
What's the purpose of this piece of music?
The purpose is to express the expanding problem-solving mind as it does the work.
And so, what does that? And what does that?
Well, what it basically was,
well,
that's sort of when you achieve clarity. I mean, what I was trying to do is for the ACE stuff that we were doing, trying to
in mastery,
through the problem state and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
it was sort of trying to express like when you're just working through a problem, you go through like a point where your mind sort of expands, and then you're like, oh right, now I know what to do. I've got clarity, and then you propel forward.
I'm always banging on about insights, so it's like in the insight moment.
Yeah, that's it. Like
that dopamine hit.
And then boom. Yeah.
Like when you understand something in a different way. All right, brilliant. So sorry, continue, Luke. I'll just jump in every now and again, like an annoying person that I am.
So I know what I would do to create that effect, but what do you think? Like, how do you make something slap more, I guess you could say?
It's usually contrast, isn't it? It's like, this is what I've sort of been mulling over or trying to do, but not managing. It's for something to be loud, the bit before it has to be quiet. And then you get the contrast and the thing. And I think that's what I'm doing wrong. I'm building it up and making it too big. And it almost needs to sort of, I did actually try just literally cutting all the reverbs and everything off dead, like just drop the faders on the space just to try and it was very abrupt, but that was too abrupt.
I'm going to
I've
say
been trying to
three
find,
words.
like, the happy.
I'm going to say 3 words, and I'm going to say it to Luke, and then I think that might sort of help the conversation. Like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, basically he's saying that because it's this massive buildup, and then it doesn't quite. It's like it. Well, I mean, the way I'm hearing it is that it's like the buildup is almost louder than the part that you want to slap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's this massive buildup with all these like pads and stuff, and the bass is still the same amount of like bass volume, bass frequency. It cuts for like a second, and then when it comes back in, it's almost like the volume is equal. So it's like building, or maybe even what's probably overall volume is probably quieter because your ear interprets higher frequencies as being louder. So you go from having a bunch of high frequency stuff to then no high frequency stuff without any change in volume in the bass or the drums, right?
Yeah.
So it's this like your ear is interpreting it as being quieter. It actually is probably the sounds that are in there are probably the same. But if you want it to be a slap and come in abruptly, it's like, it almost is like a down. It's almost like, do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
I mean, it can actually work to go all the way down, but if you're going to do that, then it needs to be all the way down. Right? It's almost like if you're going to do that, you could just do it with, I mean, it's kind of one of my favorite things to do is just cut everything except for the kick in the bass. It's like, everyone's like, just because of the contrast shift. But and there's another simpler reason for feeling that is that that's a very long break. Like if you want, I mean, to be honest with you, musically and listening to it, it doesn't bother me. That it's just, there are those ones that just slide in. But if you want it to do that, if it's meant to describe again that moment of insight, then totally you do want it to do something. And if it is describing a moment of insight, if we talk about it metaphorically, it probably wouldn't go down to a bass and a kick. It would be more of a, that's the fit. Well, for me anyway, it's almost like it's light coming in, not it going darker. So I totally get what you're saying. So, but because the break is long and it builds and it builds and it builds and it builds. The White Walkers are coming. What we're going to do? Everyone's going to die. And it's all over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that it's like the problem isn't in actually the transition. The problem's in the bit before the transition. So yeah, it's the bit. It's what you could do is describe more of the problem state with the rhythm going.
Yeah.
Make the break kind of, I mean, this is just what you could do. You could make the break without the rhythm shorter, maybe even make it go a bit more crazy, like confused almost. And then just, I mean, this is, it's a kind of it's a little bit of an easy way out, but kind of going to a little bit of silence always helps. You could do that. And then, come crashing in with the sort of the groove with the lightness. But I think it's about the length of the break and what the break does. Often people, it's almost like they work on the thing so much and they have this massive build, and then it's like it's a Game of Thrones sort of moment, essentially. Great. Did you have anything else to say, Lou? Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's almost like the bass too. The bass is like in there up until I think like the last bar. And I mean, one thing that could impact the impact is either cutting out some of the bass. Maybe that was happening, some of the sub frequencies. But I was thinking like it's almost like one of the ways that you could add to the like of it is cutting the bass sooner, because you obviously that bass is going to come back.
Yep.
So if it was cut sooner, that's kind of when I'm like, oh, I know this is coming back. You know what I mean? It's like, I know that, I mean, Game of Thrones, there would be like seasons where they didn't show the White Walkers, but obviously because the White Walkers is such a prominent character.
don't give any spoilers,
I
please.
won't, I won't, I
Yeah,
won't,
good. Right.
I won't. You always knew that they were coming at some point, but then they wouldn't show them for a while. So because they're not there, you know, like something's going on. You know what I mean? It's like the tension is building.
Yep.
And so, yeah, like the cutting it would add tension and add to the impact when it comes back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And add to the excitement, I think, a little
Yeah.
bit more.
So just to finish this off, though, Steve, I just wanted to have a quick word about what you were messaging me on Slack about, and I thought when I read your message, well, actually, why don't you just say it? Say what you were talking about with me, because I think it will be useful for everyone, because this is somewhere where people do struggle, and I really want to make sure that people kind of get the help they need as soon as possible. And it is something that can happen. This is a common problem, but I actually believe it's more of a psychological one than anything else. So could you just describe that? And this is, we're not quite doing feedback right now. This is more sort of a machine problem, but I think it'll be super valuable for even those who haven't got the machine. This is about getting things into release, getting things ready for release and getting stuck in, sort of done.
I think the bit where I'm struggling, or what I was messaging about, is I just have this confusion over when making the decision is when to release the tune. I think because I find that in a lot of cases, until I've actually taken the tune further to a point where it's finished, it's difficult for me to say whether or not it's a finished. It's it's worth releasing. It's almost like I need to have the tune finished to decide whether it's good enough.
Yeah. So when you're in done, okay. So number one, that will come with practice. The ability to hear past the production is a skill, like any other. Yeah. To hear, listen to the ideas, and one of the reasons that you haven't developed that skill is because of the mountain, more than a mountain, avalanche, constant gushing fire hose of craft-based production information that tells you the lie that good music comes from great production and nothing else. I mean, it doesn't tell you that, but that's almost like the assumption behind it. Yeah. It's like you cannot fix a bad idea with great production. You can't. It's still a bad idea. It's just clearly bad.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And the problem is you've trained yourself to listen to the production because that's what everyone online is telling you to do. So it's not your fault. Yeah. It's just, and I'm training you to listen to the ideas. That's why we do it the way we do it, to actually listen for the ideas. So that's number one. So partially it's about practice. But what I wanted to ask you was, you are making a decision in done as to what to move back to the sketchbook, presumably. I mean, are you moving some of the stuff back to the sketchbook from done and keeping some of it in done?
Yeah, quite a lot of it, and that's where I sort of said that I'm going round and round in circles. I mean, this particular tune, this is a tune that from the first moment I started it, I just knew I liked it, and it's whether I've just held on to that thought or not, but because I've had that feeling, and I know that you can't trust feelings, but I've had that feeling with this tune all the way through, and it's been, obviously I've got a few little bits that I'm messing around with now, but it's very clear what I'm trying to achieve with it, and it's great. But a lot of what I'm working on, it's not as straightforward as that. I'll do a tune. It's still a bit rough and ready, but I think the ideas are there, or I know that I need to work on the ideas to do something with them. So I'll put them into done, and I'll try and make the release decision. But it's almost, often I'll make the release decision. I'll go, yeah, okay, I will release it. But then because there's various problems or whatever you want to call them that I need to solve, it's through the solving of those problems where I'll actually decide whether the tune's good enough. Because sometimes, I'm just not able to solve the problems, and I've still got like a quality control system.
So that is a different. So that's a different issue, though, right? So it doesn't. So your ability to solve the problems that are in the music doesn't mean that the ideas are bad. So you may well have. So that's a different. So we've got a number of different kind of states. Yeah. In one state, you have the ideas are not, you've decided, no, these ideas, the music, the way it is not good enough to release, and I don't want to do something with it in Discover or Draft to move it forward. So you just move it to the sketchbook. That's not a failure. You haven't wasted your time. You've learned a lot from getting to that point. You've learned about what to maybe sometimes avoid or do more of, etc. So that's all good. So that's one. That's clear, right? You just say, no, I'm not going to work on that right now. And of course, you could always be wrong, and that's one of the things you've got to remember. But you've got to go somewhere, so you make a decision.
Yeah.
In another kind of category of music in done, you know or you believe the ideas are good, but there are significant problems which, when you are working on preparing it for release in done, you don't think or you feel like you can't solve them. Yeah. That doesn't mean that your initial thing was wrong. It just means that at this point you don't have the skills and abilities to solve those problems. So that is a different reason for moving into the sketchbook, but it is a valid reason, right? In other pieces of music, the ideas are good, you want to release them, and you do have the skills and abilities, or it's easy, or it's nearly done. Well, that's still okay, but you can see from that clear category, that central one, the one where you don't have the skills and abilities yet to solve the problems that you know are in the music. I mean, bearing in mind that you could always be wrong about there being problems, right? But in that middle category, what does that lead you to then do? Like knowing that okay, so this piece of music, there are certain problems there, and I don't know how to solve them, or I can't solve them right now. What does that then lead you to do? What information, what data is that giving you?
Well, I guess it's telling me what I need to work on and what I need to improve on.
Right.
So it's good data.
Yeah.
But I suppose I'm just trying to think. There's other strain. Sometimes there'll be a tune, and like when you're doing the release decision, it says compared to your other ideas, is it a good idea? And it's like, well, yeah, it's a good idea, or it is musically interesting, and does it portray the purpose? Yes, it does, but I don't like it.
Well, that's okay. So yeah. I mean, again, the final question is: do you want to release it? Do you want to prepare it for release? You can say no.
Yeah, and I think that's where I've just been getting a bit hung up, just thinking, well, maybe I don't like it now because I'm not giving it time. Because sometimes if I don't like it, I like once I've finished it, I then do like it, and that's where the confusions come from. Because I know that with some tunes, if I go the distance with them, I end up liking them.
Well, yeah, okay. So the point here is it would be better for you to go to like things which you already like without having gone the distance, because you will still go the distance. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so it may well be the case that what you like, I mean, this is one of the things, what you like as a producer is because you've gone the distance and you like the fact that you've solved those problems. That doesn't change the fact that the ideas aren't good, or not aren't good, but that aren't good enough. Because what you're hearing is your progress. What you're hearing is the work that you did. What you're hearing is the way that you produced whatever that thing is. Whereas, so this is exactly it. It's like, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I mean, you're talking to somebody who's, I wrote my first piece of music, or like released my first vinyl record in 1994. So I've got a box of records right there that I can now listen to and vaguely remember how I felt about some of them. And I'm like, that wasn't good enough to finish. And what I was excited about was not actually the quality of the music. It was something else. So in a sense, I think you're actually on the right track. It just, you maybe think you're not.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like what is happening is the machine is doing its work in training you in the ways that it needs to train you. And yes,
Yeah.
it can be frustrating, but that's, getting good at anything is frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, true.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
is that how
But
is that giving you some kind of clarity on the sort of where
yeah,
you were looking?
I think that's helped. I mean, I'm trying to think, there's one other tiny, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it has. I'll
Yeah,
think on it, and
message me in Slack, and we can have a conversation in Slack if there's anything else which we've not covered there. And
yeah.
I mean, we've got mastery in that as well. So we've got plenty of opportunity to sort it out. But yeah, go
no
with
worries.
that understanding, and we'll see where we get to.
Yeah. All right. Nice one.
All right,
Thank
nice
you very
one,
much.
nice one, Stephen. All right, so Laurent. I can't hear you. Can anyone else hear Laurent? Spotlight. Hello, Laurent. Oh no, I can't hear you. I think, and you're not on mute, which suggests that there's a problem with the microphone. Might be in the audio settings or something. Oh, okay. Did I hear something then? No? Laurent. Let's go to all around automatic music machine. While we're waiting, so with this paths model, and you heard us talking about it there, over on my Zentor channel after this, what I'm going to be doing is continuing day 2 of my one release a week thing, where I'm starting from cold, like the zero music. And so I did my first one yesterday, and I'm actually going to be using the stream today to actually demonstrate and explain how I'm using paths to make live electronic music. And it will be useful to take a look, because I mean, I will literally be going through each of the ones and how I'm thinking about each of those things: purpose, arc, thing, hook, and space. And obviously I'm doing it live, which is the most, should we call it, interesting way of doing it, because you haven't got time to kind of do anything. But yeah, if you wanna check out how I'm actually using that model kind of in my head in the moment to come up with electronic music that sometimes works on the fly, then I think there's a link in the description. I think I was just about to check, and then I didn't actually get around to it because I ended up having the conversation. But if not, it's on the Zentor channel. In fact, Tim Wu, could you get the link? If it isn't, could you get the link from my Zentor channel and put it in the Make Music Your Life description? And then you'd have to refresh it if you're on the YouTube channel page. Anyway, so Laurent, can we hear? There we go. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So let's move to the screens. Where are we? Oh, there we go. Sorry, I'm going to cover you up rudely. There we are. All right. So what is the track that we're? So Laurent is you're a new machinist, aren't you? Is this your first class?
Yeah, the first time.
You've just been through, and how has it helped you? I know a tiny little bit about where you were at, but I don't want to speak for you. So where were you at before you came into the machine?
Well, I wasn't making music regularly, so I didn't have the push to go and do it every day. But being in the program, it helped me kind of focus and give me a way to work. Like the Trello app is really helping me.
Right. Right.
So I know where to focus, what to work on, and it gives me motivation also to see the result and do some every day.
Brilliant. Well, that's an absolutely huge win. You know, sometimes I think we do end up, and I'm not speaking for you, Laurent, I don't know enough about your situation, but I do find that some people, they end up doing stuff about producing and making music rather than actually making music. You know, just get into all kinds of things. I mean, you could literally spend your entire life. I mean, I was actually listening to I won't say who it is, but I love them actually. But it's a well-known synthfluencer, talking on a podcast with someone who was who made modular gear, and it was, if I was to do an analysis of the amount of their conversation which was focused on how they are making music, and it was almost like that was it wasn't just that, which is fine, you can talk about how, but there was almost nothing on what it was, the music that they were making, what it was and why. It was like the purpose of the music. It was all about the equipment. It was almost like there was a greater value in the how to them. Well, I'm using this and I'm using that and I'm using the other, and I mean, obviously
they're selling that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's because they're selling it. It's interesting because I think, one of the things they were sort of joking about was the lack of music. I think they were. It wasn't clear, and it doesn't matter because you don't know who I'm talking about. So, but one of the things that they were joking about was the lack of music that they were making, and that's why. It's because the majority of their focus seems to be on stuff about making music, the tools, the how, not what and why. So yeah. Anyway, which of these pieces of music are we listening to?
Don, you can pick either 45 or 47, whichever one you feel lucky with. I feel about the same with both.
Okay, brilliant. So here we go. Splurge 47. Yeah. Is it the topmost attachment? Yeah.
Yeah, the top one. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Oh, I'll put the headphones on. Hang on. Well, Laurent, I'm very, very happy that you're now making actual music, um, because I want to hear more of that. In this admittedly unusual context, because we've always got to remember, listening to your music and your opinion of the music is going to shift according to what context you listen to it in, right? And you're on Zoom and we're streaming it on YouTube, and you've got there's people listening there. So that's going to create a different perspective on the music than probably the one when you were just doing it in your own studio. So
Didn't sound as good as this morning.
Right, yeah. Well, that's often the way. So yeah, which is to be trusted? We don't know. So probably a combination of both, and stroke neither. So in this context, what was your opinion of the music?
Well, I'm not thinking much of it yet. I just made that song maybe last week. I made 2 songs last week, and I just do that for fun. I don't really think like, oh, it has a grand future when I do it, or what it's for. I do it to be happy myself and just have fun time. I'm not really. I'm not thinking too much about like the break and all the problems right now. Like I like it or
yes,
I don't
obviously.
like it.
So I get that, but so just thinking about it sort of neutrally, without worrying about what that you could have done better, or that it's this or it's that. Just thinking about it as
Well,
if
I find it kind of repetitive, a bit long when I hear it. Like there's spot where I could put more variation there, because there's it's a bit repetitive, but
yes. So you could put more variation in. That is one solution. But what would you say the like in listening to that? What are the sort of top problems that to solve at this point? Because obviously more variation is a solution, not a problem.
Oh, the top problem. I don't know. I see many problems, but are they real problem that I can't deal with? Or
well, a problem is never something that you can't deal with.
So.
It is never something you can't deal with, right? So that's one of the things. Like when I say a problem, that's not something you can't deal with. It's something that you can solve. You might not be able to solve it by the time you want to finish this piece of music, but it's still something you can. Problems are soluble, right? So that's what I mean when I say problems. It is like, what are the problems in the music? I'm not going to call it challenges. I'm not going to call it areas for improvement. I'm going to call them what it is and just say it's a problem, right? So let's not be afraid of problems. Let's go, hello, problem. You're going to help me improve. So
could it be that the sound is too loud on the master? Because I find like a kind of I sent it to that website that master automatically, and I find like the sound is just probably too loud.
So you've done the classic thing of, instead of identifying a problem, immediately go to an irrelevance in terms of the music, which is that it's too loud. I could have turned it down, even if it was over compressed. None of that. We're really at a track at this point. We're talking about the ideas. So and again, it's not your fault that you're going there. When you feel uncertain, you will, as a human being, jump to something which you can feel certain about, which is it too loud? Right? Because you can hear the difference. It's quiet or it's loud, right? That's something that gives you certainty. So as soon as I ask you a question that put you into uncertainty, you jump there, which is what we do. Again, it's not something that is
all my
unique
music.
to you.
I listen to the loudest volume possible. Like it's always at the loudest. And this track, when I put it at the loudest, it's like, oh, I have to reduce it by 1.
You don't even need to worry. Like it's almost like at this point you're thinking about things which aren't yet important.
You ask me about the problems, and that's what I see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But the purpose of this is for us to uncover how you're processing problems. This is the purpose of the feedback party, and I'm saying, okay, So in future, when a track is like this, because you already said a bunch of things that before it was too loud, I would say, okay, so that's something that is something to think about right now. Yeah. So I'm telling you, my feedback is that's not the problem that you want to worry about. It could be a problem, but I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't think it was at all. I think it actually sounds quite nice, sonically. There may be things about the space, but let's go to Luke. Where do you think the problems, the biggest problems, may be with this piece of music?
Lack of talent.
Say that again.
Lack of talent.
That's
No.
never a problem, because how do you build your talent? Because that's what talent is. It's something you build.
Practice.
Right. Brilliant.
Well, so what did you say earlier about the purpose?
I said I didn't find really a purpose other than having fun making music. I know it's often what you guys ask, like, what's the purpose of the song? But I don't know, just listening to a song, spend 5 minutes.
That's a function. So that everything you said is to make music. That's a function. So what could a purpose be?
I don't know.
I mean, when you listen to that piece of music, what could it express? I mean, it's like you don't know, because maybe you're waiting for a pixie to come on your shoulder and tell you. You decide. You choose. So choose something.
Well, my end goal is to have like maybe 5 or 10 songs that are kind of like not flat, but you can listen to it all the time, like not necessarily to go dance, but you can clean, or it's just like a.
So again, that's the function. So do you understand the difference between function and purpose? So function is what you're using it for. Purpose is what it could express. And a lot of your problems of focusing on maybe the things that are less important will be maybe not solved, but improved by actually deciding on a purpose. So when you listen to this piece of music, aside from how you feel about the fact that you did it and you're playing it to people and all that kind of stuff, just for the music itself, what could it be expressing? What emotion, for instance, could it be expressing?
I don't know. I like a cold sound, but that sounds like a not. I don't know how to say it. It's gonna be a function again.
Well, not necessarily. So is it love, hate, anger, fear?
No.
Is it? I mean, or is it something else? Could it be like a?
Does it have to have feeling? My song does.
It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be a feeling. No, but I'm just kind of throwing options out there. Think about. I mean, I don't know. Could it be the track to a gangster movie? Could it be the soundtrack to a I don't know, sci-fi movie? Could it be a?
Yeah, I picture like robots and 80s like electro a little bit, but
okay, robots
being.
Right? Are they scary robots or are they friendly robots?
No, they're smiling.
Okay, so friendly robots. All right, and what are they doing?
They're I don't know. That's a good question.
So just I mean, listen, like think about the music. What could they be doing? Are they smiling and lying back doing nothing, or are they doing something? Think about the music.
They tap their feet and they're not like all happy, but they're not quiet either.
Right. Okay. So
they're hanging out. One is drinking a beer.
Okay, there we go. So we've got robots drinking a beer, hang out. Right, so now we've come up with, and yes, it is, you have pulled out of your rear end a purpose. You're making stuff up. But you know what? That's what the creative process is. Making stuff up that doesn't exist. Right? So now you have a story of these robots, friendly robots, who are hanging out, having a beer, shooting the beep.
I think all my songs are about robots. So
Yeah, okay, but they could be doing different things, right?
yeah.
So you can make them doing different things, right? And it would be helpful for you to do that. Okay, and for some people, they're going to gravitate more towards porpoises, which are more emotional. Others are going to be more story based. Others are going to be maybe more conceptual. Like, so Stevens, for instance, was much more conceptual. That was a sort of, it was about, you know, the process of insight. But what this does is it allows you to actually focus on the music and the what rather than the how. Because again, the problem that you came up with at the end was very much a how problem, right? So I'm asking you, and I know it can feel uncomfortable to do this if you're not used to it, but it's so helpful. It's not funny. Okay, so I am going to. I did the same thing to Luke as I always do, which is I passed it over to him and then I jumped in. So I'm going to turn off my video and my mic, and I'm going to I'm going to literally keep my mouth shut. I'm going to probably maybe sew it together or my lips together, and let Luke take it from here, because now we have a purpose that we can work with.
Okay, so yeah, because it was like with your old purpose, if it was like just to have fun making music, you wouldn't really, the feedback is almost irrelevant. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that Alice in Wonderland thing where she's walking and the cat is like, well, she asks like for directions and the cat's like, where do you want to go? And she's like, well, I don't know. And it's like, well, then it doesn't really matter. I'm not quoting that right, but it's like, if you don't have somewhere you're trying to go or something you're trying to do, then feedback, it's like, what are we feeding back on? You know what I mean? Because if you're trying to make a grungy, rebellious punk rock song and you ask for mixed feedback, you know, that's going to dramatically impact the feedback, right? And if the person making that track is getting feedback from someone that's got a classical background and they don't tell them they're trying to make something grungy, they're going to say, well, this mix is terrible, you know? So if you don't define that purpose, it's almost like impossible to, you know, feed back on it, I guess. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yep.
So with the happy robots drinking, relaxing idea. So now that
just
you've got,
popped out of nowhere.
I mean, I get it. It makes sense. And I mean, popped out of nowhere is how every new thing, essentially, I mean, that's the thing that you just had happen was, were you here for Steve's call?
Yes.
That's kind of the thing that he was trying to express in his track, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, so when Mike was asking you about the track, it was like tension was building because you didn't know the answer, right? And so it was like, is something going to come up? Is something going to pop out? And then when you finally pop out, that's like in Steve's track, the the drop, I guess you could say, or whatever you want to call that. But anyway, that's irrelevant. So with all that being said, when you think about the arc of the track, where it takes you, after you having this purpose, like what are your thoughts?
It's not bad. It's okay. I'm happy with it. There's still a bit of work, but I see progress with what I did maybe a month ago. Still, every day that I make something, I learn new things. So I don't know that I want to release this. I don't know that I'll ever find a real name other than 47 for it. But yeah, I'm happy. I move forward.
what is the work that you feel still needs to be done?
Why I'm kind of lost about releasing music. So even if it was complete, I don't know how or where to release music either way. So I'm gonna put some in a pile and I'm gonna gather some and get the information and do it. I wouldn't be releasing just one song. I don't even know, like, I know nothing about that.
So, okay, so that's fine, but that's not, doesn't have to do with the arc of the actual track. So could you walk me through how you are viewing the arc of this track? Have you thought about this?
No, probably not.
Where would you say that the energy, the dips and the flows, like where would you say the payoff is if you had to describe that?
The payoff is, I think at the start, like, no, the payoff is after the break. Like there's this little thing, and then it's the drop after the break, I guess. But it's not a big like everybody hands in the air, and it's more subtle.
Okay, so how would you describe what happens before the payoff?
Well, I introduced that little melody that is in there, the start of the song. So it kind of progressed into not something else, but something a bit deeper at that part. And the start, I still find a bit kind of boring. I'm not totally happy with it.
Okay, so you find it boring. What is boring about it?
Well, I know in my head the part that I don't like. It's like the melody is, I don't necessarily like where it's going at the start. It feels it's not going anywhere until the break.
Okay, so it feels like it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Because I think like the good part is after the break, like where the nice little melody comes on and the little. Before it's like I'm trying to spend time until the break.
You're trying to spend time until the break.
Well, because there's nothing that good happening, I find.
Okay, so you feel that the intro is boring because there's nothing that good is happening until after the break.
Yeah, I find like maybe, but I tried introducing that little sound earlier, and then it makes the song kind of feel all the same the whole way. So I removed it from the start to make it feel a bit different, but I don't know that. Yeah, it's just, I'm nitpicking probably.
You might not be. So what do you think you could do? What makes the intro boring? It's just that it's the same thing.
Well, I find it like the little melody at the start. It's a bit slow, like where I didn't hear it when I composed it, but now that I hear it back with you guys, it's like feels like it's the wrong. I'm gonna change that later tonight.
Wait. So what's wrong with it?
It feels like it's starting good, but then there's like a down. The melody goes kind of down instead of like, it feels like it wants to be more happy than it is, and then it goes kind of like on a downward. I don't know. I just didn't like it.
Let's just, so I just didn't like it. That's a statement which has zero information in it, right? So what we're going to just do now is listen to the bit.
It does to me. It's either you like it or you don't. It's like
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying that's not true. No, but there's, when I say zero information, sorry, there's zero. It's helpful information. Yeah. I'm not saying it's got no. What's the word? I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything at all, but what it means is you don't like it. So if you say I don't like it, what do you do next? If that's all you've got, it's random. There's nothing that you can say about it. So what we need to do is figure out what it is.
I know exactly what it is. It's just hard for me to explain.
So that's what we're doing is we are upgrading your ability to explain, because as soon as you can explain why you don't like it, you know what to do next. So that's exactly what we're doing. Okay. So yes, I know it's hard. I know it's hard, but that's why we're doing this. So we're just going to play. We're just going to play it and actually find out what it is that you don't like about it. And I'm not going to do this. I'm just jumping in because I wanted to play it so that Luke, because it was a while back that we actually listened to it. So we're just going to listen to the first little
It's around 1 minute, I think.
Yeah, section.
That part.
That melody?
It was that part there. It just starts and then I just don't like it. There. I feel it makes it depressing.
You know what?
Makes it depressing a little bit. I don't know.
Depressing. Okay, so there's something there. See, that's a little more something to work with. So versus I don't like it. So to you, that part sounds like sad, depressing.
Like down a bit, like just. I think I'll work on that. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if you've chosen the purpose to be like this expressing happy robots, it would make sense that something that's a little down, sad, dramatic wouldn't work within the purpose of this track. Do you see that?
Yeah. Maybe it's good too. It builds up the end, like the middle part better. I mean, you critique your own stuff all the time.
So let's not pull back. Let's not pull back from the problem. Let's not pull back. Let's just go with, because you could always just sort of change the subject and go, oh, well, actually, maybe it's not a problem. Let's actually just go with it as an assumption. You might be right that it isn't a problem, right? But let's actually talk about that, because I was watching your face and I could see when, because we were locating the problem, I could see when the problem came. So it was fine, and it was right there was where the problem happened.
Yeah.
Now, why does that sound depressing?
I don't know. In my head, it feels like it should go somewhere else. I should hear.
What's that interval?
Not big enough interval. It should be a.
No, it should be, but if you don't want it to sound depressing, it probably doesn't want to be a second. It's a major second. I think it's a major second. I'm terrible with seconds. Yeah, it's a major second. Yeah. So a second, I mean, it doesn't always sound depressing, but it's got that. There's a lot of tension in that interval. Yeah. So and underneath you've got the tonic, so you've got, it's actually a ninth, yeah, because you've got the bass, yeah, or whatever it is, you know, more octaves. Okay, so if you change that note to something else, which wasn't a second, it may well sound less depressing.
I mean, to me, it's that's when it starts to get tense. Like if your purpose was there's robots sitting around drinking, it's like, okay, up to that point, robots are sitting around drinking, and then the camera pans over and the robot with like the doom laser has like showed up, and it's like, oh, it's something new has entered that has changed the mood, right? Does that make sense? So
Yeah, I like. I mean, I always start thinking like I'm gonna make a cold, dark song. Like always, like when I start, it's gonna be dark and cold, but then it turns out being more melodic because otherwise it's just too. But yeah, I always start with thinking like, oh, I'm gonna find cold sound. It needs to be metallic or.
Yeah, it's like you introduce dissonance when there was only consonants.
Maybe they're not dancing. Maybe they're doing something else.
Well, to me, it's like, okay, dancing, 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 and then new tense part. It's like, okay, what is this new thing that has just entered? It doesn't sound. It's not for sure bad, but it could be, right? It's like a new character is introduced, and it's like the robot's potential enemy, but maybe this time he's not bad. Does that make sense? I mean, Mike, what do you think? Do you see what I'm going for? So it's like, if your purpose is to introduce some tension right there, then that's a great move, right? But if your purpose is just dancing robots, then
or chilling robots. So this is the whole point, Laurent, right? Because without focusing on the purpose, what you're doing is you're going, well, maybe it's no problem. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe. And then you're just in a world of possibilities, of no options, of well, what is better? It's all subjective. You're just, and you could go for the rest of your life never finishing anything, right? But by saying, okay, I am going to decide, I am going to choose. I'm not going to wait for the purpose pixie to come and whisper in my ear and tell me what the purpose is. I am going to decide that this piece of music is about robots chilling, having a beer, right? And I know it feels a bit ridiculous. You're just making stuff up, but that is the creative process. You're making stuff up. So now you have something which is a high leverage decision. I am deciding that this piece of music is about this. And in that context, that major second at that point is wrong. Yeah, it's not as good. It's a problem. Maybe not wrong. It's a problem. Yeah. So if you're going to decide, and again, one of the things I'm noticing, Laurent, is that yes, of course, it could always be something else, but at some point, a decision needs to be made so that you can move forward, so that you're actually moving towards something that it is. I mean, in a sense, splurge and discover. What are you discovering? What you're discovering is actually the purpose and the main things that are going to go into that purpose. And without a purpose, you do end up in the, well, I don't like it, but I don't know why I don't like it. I just don't like it. But that's not useful if you are making the music. You need to be able to, because as soon as we located the problem, and I mean, I did it just by watching your face. Right? I was watching you as you were listening to it, and I could see where the problem was. I could see where it was located, and I was like, okay, that makes sense given what you said the purpose was of the piece of music. Yeah. So let's move. We'll move on to someone else now. But in terms of if you were to, and again, when I heard you talking to Luke about, well, I probably won't finish this, I think there is an element in your thinking of, well, it's not already something good, so therefore it's almost like it feels fixed. You can change it. I mean, to be honest with you, I think this could be really good if you want it to be. If you change, if you kind of follow the processes within your automatic music machine and decide, okay, so I'm going to go and make the piece of music about this thing and notice where it's not actually fulfilling that purpose and change things about it, because no piece of music is fixed. Not even in reality. Yes, a recording up on Spotify is fixed, or a recording on the piece of music that I released in 1994 on that vinyl is fixed. But actually the ideas themselves aren't even fixed. I could go back to those ideas, replay them and make something else out of them. So, but particularly stuff in the automatic music machine, even the stuff that's in done isn't fixed. You can change it. and it's up to you to decide which ones you want to work on and which ones you don't. So, with that said, if you did decide to go to, complete this piece of music, release ready, if you did, what would be your next steps or step?
I'd work on the drum. I'd make it more. I didn't really work on drums. I just put this and I copied all those patterns, and I didn't really take care of make it like any different. So if I were to put more time, right now these are still, I put it in done, but it's still an idea that I made in like maybe one day, or it's not something that I spend tons of time on. If I were to want to release it, I'd make it better.
Okay. So it's interesting that we have spent 15 minutes talking about a problem, and I asked you what your next step was, and you talked about doing something completely different. That's interesting. So,
Yeah.
that may well also be an indication of some of the reasons that you haven't up until this point worked on music, right? Is there a pulling away from? Is there a feeling? Oh, it's not good now, so I'm going to do something else, right? So, but what would you do? What would you do if you were to act upon what we've talked about in this conversation?
That's a good question.
What did we talk about as being the number one problem, the thing that bothered you the most?
Well, the melody kind of bothered me the most, but it seems like the other people comment that it's almost they like this part. So maybe it's just me looking at
hang on a minute. Are you an artist? Do you
sure.
want to be an artist?
Sure.
Ignore them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Sometimes
wonderful
maybe
people
you're
and they
too
all have valid
involved with your
opinions.
stuff.
But if you want to be an artist, you want to cultivate the ability to ignore what people say. That's the truth. I mean, that doesn't mean you 100% ignore them, and it doesn't mean you don't care about your audience. It doesn't mean that you hate people and you think everyone's wrong. It doesn't mean any of that. But you want to cultivate the ability to ignore other people's opinions. In this conversation, I might have given the odd opinion. How many opinions of mine about this piece of music have I given you?
You guys are taking lots of time. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but how
how
many opinions?
Ideas. You gave multiple opinion. I'll have to rewatch the video.
I haven't given you any opinions about the music. Yeah, rewatch the video. I've asked you questions, and I've said I've given you opinions about what you're focusing on. I've not given you any opinions about the music. I mean, I might occasionally have said I don't see there being much of a problem there, but I'm not giving you that kind of opinion. I'm actually getting you to find your own opinion. Rewatch the video. You'll be surprised at how few opinions there are.
So what's your opinion, Mike, about it?
I'm not going to tell you because that's irrelevant. Any opinions that I have given will have slipped out because I'm a human being. I don't want to give you my opinion because that is irrelevant. The only opinion that counts is your opinion. And the difficulty with that as an artist is that your opinion can't be trusted. Right? This is the paradox. This is what makes it hard. As an artist, you need to, at the same time, trust your own opinion and recognize that it's unreliable at the same time. So ignore what people say, trust yourself, but recognize that in any given moment, your opinion is unreliable. Yes, that is highly conflicting information, but it's true. That's what we're navigating in the creative process. Okay? So
Thank you.
Trust your reaction, trust what you choose is the thing that you're trying to say, believe it. And I mean, again, I do have opinions, but I think one of the opinions, I can give you an overarching opinion. I think you're being way too hard on yourself, Laurent. It's better than you think it is. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
I appreciate that. Okay.
All right, let's move on to Luke. Could you spotlight Ryan and remove Laurent's spotlight?
Thanks a lot.
Oh, we've got a hissy hiss. Is that? Yes, Ryan, you're hissing.
Oh, wrong one.
Hello, Ryan. Are you there?
It won't
Yeah.
let me spotlight Ryan. I can
Hello?
spotlight Laurent, but
Let me see if I can do it. Hang on.
Can you hear me?
I can. You've got a hiss coming in and out. Why won't it let us spotlight Ryan? Hang on. Oh, maybe it's because Ryan hasn't got his video on. That'll be why. It's okay.
Yeah. Let's do it.
There we go.
Sorry about that.
So I think you'll be, that's spotlighting that. There we go. Okay, so let's find this piece of music in the machine.
So, is there something weird with my sound? You were saying I was.
It keeps on. It's like hissing every now and again, but I think we'll be all right. We'll basically just mute yourself when you're not talking, and I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. Let me put headphones on. See if that goes away.
Cool. All right. So what's the track in your machine that we're listening to?
Do you have it open?
I have your automatic music machine open.
Okay. Yeah. I just changed my mind because this whole time I've been thinking about the purpose of different songs. And so I feel like the song I was originally going to share with you, I feel like I just worked through the purpose myself in the last hour.
Cool.
So I feel pretty clear about the purpose actually. So I was going to share that, but I mean I still could, but I feel like it might be useful to find to go to another one.
Cool.
So let's go to that same place in draft.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to mute you. Right, to unmute yourself because you're hissing. Yeah, so just mute yourself for a second because there's hiss and I don't want you. Yeah, we're going to get the big white noise build up otherwise, which so many people love for transitions. Anyway, so let's go. the old wrong version problem, the familiar thing that often happens. So what is it? What is it about this? Is the wrong version?
Yeah, so that's the version I made. I made that in 2008.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then
This one,
I took
October 18th.
I picked this up. Yeah, I picked this up right before doing the leap for the first time.
Okay, so
Remix it.
I see. Okay.
And then, so it's the version. Let's see. The one you just want that second one, I guess.
Okay, the second one. Brilliant. Okay, so you put the old version afterwards. Just
sorry about that. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, don't worry. I didn't even ask you which one it was. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is after learning the automatic music machine version.
No, this is before. This is before. This is actually a track that I picked up thinking, okay, I want to finish one track, and I had the completely opposite mindset of
Okay.
make music your life, and I realized it was not working, and so I actually didn't work on it since October 2020, right before I did the leap. But now I'd like to re-pick it up.
It's funny. It's one of those things where, you know, because people, when you sort of first talk to them, particularly if they've not kind of been through the training, you talk to them about the various different things that we do and how we do things, and they come up with all these objections. Well, why? That's a bad idea. I don't make music like this, and I don't make music like that. And I just asked them one question. So, how's your current strategy working out for you? And it's like, what if they say anything other than, well, absolutely great? It's like, well, maybe it's time to try something else. Anyway, so let's have a listen to this one. Okay, so if you mute yourself again, Ryan. Oh, sorry. My mistake. Accidentally clicked. Ah! Oh, no. Now what have I done? Hang on a minute. I've done something weird there. What is that? What did I do? Strange. I'm just going to ignore that. I'm going to close the card down just in case I've done something unusual so it doesn't save anything. And I'm just going to press play again. Right. There we go. Great. So, Luke, why don't you take it away?
Okay, Ryan. So what would you say is the purpose of this?
Yeah, I would say the purpose of the track is getting lost. And, I mean, like, it was actually cool to listen to the original version first because I think the purpose was a lot clearer. So the purpose of the original track has to do with a feeling of like a familiar, like going to, like wanting to go to a familiar place. So it's kind of nostalgia. So there's an emotional quality of like wanting to go back somewhere that maybe you can't go back, or you know, a little bit of like longing in that. And then when I listened to the newer version, I would listen to the second one. I feel like I added a lot of parts, but they didn't really contribute to the purpose. So, if I had to put a purpose to the new one, I would say I don't know.
Don't know. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
What could the purpose be of the new one?
It could be, well, maybe realizing, and now that I'm thinking about this out loud, it could be like the first part's the feeling of longing for me, the purpose of longing, and you know, wanting to go back to that same place. And then, you know, it could be like the journey of getting back there and maybe getting there in the end. I mean, you know, I could like I could see it that way. I hadn't thought about this before, but that would be one way to think about the new parts interacting with the old parts and like what the relationship might be.
You said this track. When did you start it?
Hey, Luke.
I made this.
Luke,
Yeah.
could you just turn up your mic a bit? It's just that Ryan's noise on his mic is really loud compared to your voice. So when you're not talking, Ryan, can you mute your mic? Yeah, brilliant. And then Luke, you talk because it's just covering up Luke's sound. So when you're talking, just unmute it, and then when you're not talking, mute it. Ryan, that would be great.
Yeah. Did it just get better? Just curious.
Yeah, I just cut out.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just changed something here, so I think we figured it out.
Brilliant. Do that. Keep it like that.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Brilliant. Continue.
Yeah.
Okay, so the purpose is longing to go back, maybe nostalgia. And then you said the new purpose could be maybe actually getting back. So when did you say you started this track?
I made that, the original one we were listening to, I made that in 2008. And then I just didn't touch it. I mean, I have a lot of unfinished music from that era. And so I picked it up, like, because I love this song, but I felt like it wasn't complete. It didn't go anywhere. You know, I felt like it was just kind of repeating in and of itself, and I didn't have a B section. I didn't have any arc really to the track. So, like I was saying earlier, I started to just kind of work on it. This was before the AMM, and wrote a bunch of new parts. And then I went into the AMM, and I haven't touched this since. So it's been about almost a year and a half that I've haven't actually worked on it. And I just pulled it into the AMM already as a draft, because I feel like it's a draft to work on, you know, because I would like to finish it. So yeah, so I think my biggest problem is I guess even deciding if all these parts belong, and then second of all, trying to integrate them. Like it like, I feel like they're not quite cohesive the way they are currently.
Yeah, there's something interesting going on in that the purpose of the song is like looking back and wanting to go back there, and you're writing a song from 2008 that you're going back to.
Yeah.
So do you see it's you're like reaching back to 2008, trying to get back there and making a song about wanting to do that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that before, but that's very true. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe the purpose of the song is the realization of the song. You know, like yeah.
It's almost like you said, so you started off by saying the purpose of the song got lost. And then you said the purpose of the song was like nostalgia looking back. But then you might, by looking back, actually get back. So it's almost like because you don't have that, you haven't figured out, it's almost like it seems like there's like something, you see the like, it's like the confusion is in the, like what's the reason you wanted to go back to 2008 to work on a track? If you want to share that, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I have a lot of songs from an earlier chapter in my life that are unreleased, and I like them, but they're not. I don't feel like I don't want to release them as is. So this was the first one of a whole bunch of songs that I have from that period of my life that I wanted to like remix myself, essentially. You know what I mean? It's been, we're talking about 14 years ago, right? So I was 20 years old. I mean, I was a very different person back then. But the song, even then, like the purpose of nostalgia isn't something that I created now. Like that's a feeling that I had even 14 years ago when I created the song. Like it always gave me that feeling. And the name was that same place from back then. That was the original name I put on it, referring to like wanting to get back to that same place. So I see what you mean. There's an interesting mirror happening musically, and I don't know. It's like I said.
If you were to, because again, like there is an element in the way that you were talking about the purpose where it's like maybe the purpose is this, and again, I can see the gnomes and the pixies entering the room when you say things like that. It's like, because you do actually decide what the purpose is. So I'm going to ask you a question. What if you made the purpose about that same place, you as 20 years old, what would you change about the music? Or maybe a better way of putting it actually would be, what are the problems with this new version? Let's start there. If the new purpose of this track is that same place being you 20 years old, what are the problems with the latest version we just listened
to? For me, I would split it up into sort of three parts. There's the original part, that's the melodic strings and the piano, and then there's this reggae breakdown. Actually, that reggae breakdown is based on an iteration of the track that I also produced in 2008. And then the third version is completely new, the third section, which goes into those arpeggios, and it gets like more electronic feeling. And I feel like when you ask me that, Mike, that third version feels very futuristic. And that, I think maybe that's where the dissonance is, where it's a thing about, I have a nostalgic feeling, and then all of a sudden I'm put into this place of like very kind of like futuristic electronic arpeggio sounds, and I'm getting into a vibe that's much more future oriented. So
again, that needn't be a problem depending on I mean, this is why individual pieces of music can have, let's say you finish 1 million pieces of music, you could have 1 million purposes. That's not true function. Right? It's like and this is the thing, it depends on what specific, because to say nostalgia is very broad, but you could be, for instance, and I'm not saying do this, I'm just giving just demonstrating what I mean. So for instance, if you wanted to use that futuristic, because like purpose and the music, it's a two-way street. One,
sure,
impinges on the other and maybe gets you to maybe shift the purpose, but then that then is static to a certain extent and allows you to make decisions about the music. So you can be flexible. It's not, oh, right now, this is the purpose, if you don't want it to be. So, for instance, if you said, well, that futuristic section is expressing me now, and the other section is expressing me remembering past me, right? And there's that kind of yearning for wanting to go back there. Well, then that actually makes sense. However, if you don't want to bring to the music you now, then what you just said holds. So again, it depends on what you want to do. So let me ask you a question about the middle section. What is the purpose of that section?
Just by itself or in relationship to the others?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll go with that. I feel like that middle section, the purpose is expressing a very like free, fun, kind of, it's hard to put in words, I guess. It's kind of a feeling of like coasting in a really I would say like cruising or coasting, this is like, I hear myself saying this.
It's okay. I get it. It feels a bit weird saying it's like I mean, Laurent had the same experience, but you get used to it because it's super helpful to be able to do this. It's really
it gives me the sense of where the first section is nostalgic and like looking at the past. The second section feels like it's more of the present, I guess. It's like, it's a feeling of like cruising and coasting and like just like chilling, like things are good. It's a positive feeling. It's fun. There's a da 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 da. There's a melody in there. It brings me to a place of like having fun and enjoying myself.
Okay, so and again, I'm not saying do this, but we've got the past, we've got the present, and we've got the future. So I mean, that's a possibility. Again, I'm not saying do it or don't do it. I'm not saying it's a good idea or bad. It's an idea. But that's interesting, isn't it? That you've got the past, the present, and the future. You said that's futuristic. This is present, and then that's the past.
It's very interesting. And I mean, I think the reason why my source of confusion was like, hey, the purpose was supposed to be this nostalgic feeling, and now there's all this other stuff happening, and maybe maybe I should just take that all out and just go back. You know what I mean? And so maybe another alternative is to create this new purpose and look at it as this kind of bigger journey.
Yeah, I think Luke nailed it when he was sort of reflecting back to you that probably one of the reasons you were struggling was that you were being nostalgic about a track which was about nostalgia. So it was it was like there, and that was like it's almost hard for you to. It was like you were nostalgic about writing that track, and that track was about nostalgia. So it was successive levels of nostalgia, which may well, I mean, could well be just making stuff up now. I don't know, but it could well be the reason that you kind of started putting past, present, and future in there.
Yeah, I definitely. Like when I listened back to this track, I love it, but I didn't feel like it was a pure expression of like what I wanted to do musically now. And so maybe it's still not quite there, but I feel like it's more there with these new elements, right? I'm trying to bring it to the present somehow, and I guess even to the future, subconsciously.
Yeah. I mean that I'm not saying it is that. Again, we can't know that. We're not going to be able to do a scientific experiment to actually verify it. But what you could, I mean, you could take that approach with it and go, all right, so this is a track about nostalgia for the past, about the sort of enjoyment in the present, about the, I don't know, it could be uncertainty or excitement or whatever it is for the future. That could be the purpose. Let's just pretend that is what you're going to do. Again, I'm not suggesting you do or you don't. But if you were to pretend that is what you're going to do, what would your next steps be with this piece of music?
I think I have to listen to it. I have to do direct listening first. That would be the first thing, and then actually, even before that, I would probably write out the purpose.
Brilliant.
And then direct listen, and then based on the purpose that I wrote out, make a drafting list, because I'm innocent draft, and I feel like that's kind of where I should be. So that's what I would do. I don't know. I mean, how does that?
Well, yeah. In terms of the the piece of music itself, the different sections are contrasting in certain ways and not in others. Now, that's not a bad or a good thing, but I'm just saying what is there. Again, this is the difference between opinion and just description, right? So there are certain things that don't change, and then there are certain things that do. That is something just to pay attention to. It's just to listen to, and what that actually means in relation to the purpose. Because what I can hear in the music is that most of your variation comes in the parts and more than the arrangement. Again, I'm just saying, I'm describing what there is. That's neither a bad thing nor a good thing, but it is a thing, right? And it's just something variation isn't only, or contrast isn't just about what parts you use. In fact, you can have massive amounts of contrast with exactly the same parts.
Yeah.
Depending on how you arrange them and how you put them in space. So, and one of the challenges, one of the problems with a purpose like the past, present, and future purpose is actually, where does the tension come in that? Because really music is an expression of tension and release at its most base level. And you want to find a way of creating that kind of a shape. People often talk about energy when they talk about music, and I think that's almost less important than the tension. And it's funny, the more energy something has, often the less tension it does. Not always, but the less tension it does. The biggest release of tension is when the most energy happens.
Right.
So one of the things that you want to pay attention to after you've kind of figured out, am I going to go with this purpose? Is it going to be another purpose? Is how am I going to create a kind of shape with the tension? What is that going to be? What is going to create the tension? And how does that actually tell the story of the purpose?
Yeah.
Because I think that piano figure, it really reminds me of some of the anime films that I love, like Miyazaki. Have you seen any of those, like Howl's Moving Castle and things like that? And they're all very nostalgic. There's a lot of nostalgia, and kind of it's about childhood and all kinds of things, like and age, and all sorts of stuff like that. And it strikes me that that's actually very in line with what you're trying to do here. So what I might actually suggest is you go and check out some Miyazaki. I don't know actually who writes the music for those. Maybe it's different people, but some of those the scores to like Howl's Moving Castle and Spirited Away and things like that, because I think they might, because it's all about past and future and age and what it is to be young and all that kind of stuff. So it might actually bring some inspiration.
Yeah, I love those movies, and they are super deep and emotional, and there's a very intangible kind of quality to the stories.
Yeah,
and the way they play with time.
Yeah, and the other thing about them is, of course, they have two picture. So, but is that whoever writes the music does a lot with a little.
Yeah,
a lot. Yeah, they're quite, they're great pieces of art. So wonderful. All right, so you're going to write out the purpose. You're going to listen, watch some Miyazaki, listen to some of that music, and yeah, I mean, just to finish up. So with the automatic music machine, I mean, what did you use how has the automatic music machine helped or changed how you do what you do, Ryan?
Yeah, it's changed radically my approach to writing music and working on music. I mean, splurging is super natural for me, and actually being prolific is really easy for me. My harder thing is finishing music. But the methodology of working on a lot of different things at the same time was extremely helpful. And being able to organize that in a fairly logical way, so things aren't just kind of lost, in a file or a folder somewhere, and the different stages following through the creative process is super helpful. This is an example of a piece of music that I was working on without the automatic music machine, and it's different. It's really different to listen to this or to listen to what I'm doing.
Yeah,
that comes through the machine. It's definitely a different thing. So
brilliant. All right. Well, good luck, and I look forward to hearing the finished piece, past, present, and future Ryan, expressed in a piece of music. What a wonderful idea!
Wow, that's a daunting task. But,
oh no, sorry, I didn't mean to make it daunting. Excellent.
No, but I think it's all good. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Luke. That was sweet.
All right, nice one,
Ryan.
Ryan. Take care.
Cool.
Yeah. So, look, I'm now covering Luke up. How unfortunate. There we go. Oh no. Yep. so yeah. So maybe we could have a conversation like this. Does that work? Yeah. So. You've got a face all the way. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah. I mean, we've been talking about the purpose for a while, Luke. What difference has focusing on the purpose and then the various other things that follow on from that? What kind of difference has it made to your music making?
Well, I think one of the interesting things that I kind of wanted to comment on Laurent's thing is he was like, oh, I don't like the way that sounds. And what's interesting to me about that is there's parts now where in the moment, I don't like the way a thing sounds, but I'm doing it because the purpose of the track, if it's to tell a story, is to express a point of tension in the story where something that you don't want to happen is happening, right? So it's like, things that you don't like, sounds you don't like, actually become useful. If you're using this like big, like really tense, like polychord, right, where there's all this dissonance, and then you resolve it. If you're just trying to be like, do I like this? A lot of people, they like loop for 4 bars and like, well, no, I don't like the way this sounds. And it's like, well, good. You want parts where you don't like how it sounds if you want there to be tension, right? And also when you define the purpose, you can just define what the purpose is. And you can literally just determine what the track is going to be and then just write it and not have to do this like, it's like, yeah, it's like where do you want to go for dinner, honey? And it's like, well, and then it's like, it's like just consistent, repeated, not real certain type of thing versus like, let's just pick a thing and then just do it. And then we can always change it. But until we pick it and do it, we can't change it, right? So it's like by defining the purpose, if you just are okay with this random thing you've kind of just made up and just accepting that for a while, you can commit for the purpose, be like, for the next week, the purpose of the track will be this. And I will just complete the track as though this is the purpose, right?
Mm.
So it makes it really quick to just finish a track and be like, well, the purpose of it was this, it's that, great. You know, versus like, well,
Yeah.
let's,
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know,
I
like
mean, you know, in these feedback parties, they all, you know, they're all always kind of very different. And today we've talked a lot about purpose. So we've talked about the P of the past, but really the point of the purpose of the purpose, the function of the purpose is to allow us to know what to do with the hook, with the thing, with the arc, with the space. Yeah, and we kind of didn't get there with anyone today because it was a lot about how, you know, the purpose. No, for instance, in Laurent's case, it was really about the hook, how the hook wasn't expressing the purpose he chose on the call. Yeah. In Ryan's case, it was more really about the arc. Yeah, that when we were talking about the past, the present, and the future. That was an arc conversation we were having here. What is the purpose of the different sections? And how does that inform the greater purpose of the piece of music? So again, the purpose isn't just a kind of conceptual, you know, flowery thing that is, you know, it's actually a practical decision that you can make that helps you make all of the other decisions and that takes you out of your feelings about the music. I mean, the feelings, as Laurent correctly said, you know, what I like has value. Yes, what you like does have value, but it doesn't tell you what to do next. Which is why we struggle to finish music if you're stuck in I like it or I don't like it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you were, I don't know, like a movie like Star Wars and being like, listening back as though you made it and being like, well, I don't like this one scene, right? But because the scene is like scary and dark. And it's like, well, yeah, but then when the scary and dark part ends, you feel relief, yeah, I don't like that scene. But if the whole purpose of that scene is to establish the tension that then gets released, that gives you the satisfaction, then you can't look at a song in a microscope and use your own feelings about it, right? Does that make sense? You have to take it in context.
Yeah. And
if like writing good music, but not always, but if you just listen to a little bit of it, there should be parts where you're like, I don't really like the way that sounds. Well, maybe not should. That's, you know what I mean, though? It's kind of like not everything is the thing.
No, exactly. Yeah, if everything is wonderful, then nothing is. I mean, exactly. I mean, again, now we're talking about the difference between what does quality actually mean, right? Because quality can be a section that you don't like, but it can still be high quality in that it's kind of musically good and it's produced well and all of those things. But it can be all of those things and you not like it because it's leading on to a bit that you do like. And then you ask us, well, what does actually like mean? Right? Is because if it's actually serving the music, maybe you do like. Yeah. So great. Well, we've been on for 2.5 hours. So I'm about to go and prepare for my Zental live stream where I'll actually talk about this paths model a bit more while I'm actually making a piece of music, splurging a piece of music. So I will be on there in half an hour. This time I'm going to try my best not to be late because I think I've got most things set up. So I will be there in half an hour. I think there is a link in the description. If there isn't, refresh the page and there should be a link in the description to that Zental live stream. So anyone who wants to come and join me over there, where I'll be really talking about my music, it's all about me, rather than you. Come and join me there. And yeah, the next Automatic Music Machine class is now open for enrollments. We're starting a week on Sunday, if you're not this side of the world, and a week on Monday. So yeah, come and join us and finish loads of music and have lots of fun. Get our coaching, find out what the purpose of your music is, and all that good stuff. And if not, no worries. We will be doing plenty more on the YouTube channel. for free and sending valuable emails through the email list. So until next time, onwards and upwards.